On this show, we talk about mold exposures, hidden infections, heavy metals. Well, we don't talk about silicone poisoning. Well, this episode discusses one thing that actually has all of the above and is a growing concern of today. But we also are going to talk about a unique solution for those people who have this issue. Yes, silicone implants. Oh, it goes beyond breast today. But the fact is many people watching this have them and say, I'm not removing them. Well, there's something you can do to lessen the chances, support your body from ending up another statistic. And the person that I interview in this episode has done an episode. She gives her story about how her breast implants were making her very ill. But she also makes the argument that these are going to keep going in, and it's increasing every year. So how do we protect people? Stay tuned for this episode of Cellular Healing TV. I want to give thanks to one of our sponsors, CytoDefend. Look, at a time like this, I think that our immune system and keeping our immune system up right now is more important than ever. I can also tell you that I pay attention to the things that keep my immune system on par and healthy. So glad that CytoDefend is one of our sponsors here on Cell TV. And it's a product that I use, my family uses, and hopefully you'll check it out. And by the way, you can check it out with the link right here below. If you want to try a free bottle, you can actually get a free bottle, just pay the shipping. And I think you'll reorder after that, but check it out.
If you're listening to this podcast and want to access the amazing CytoDefend product Dr. Pompa just mentioned, please visit freeimmunity.com. Again, that's freeimmunity.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cellular Healing TV. I'm Ashley Smith, and today we welcome back friend of the show and our favorite expert in all things breast implant illness, Dr. Kayte Susse. Dr. Kayte is here to share info about how to support your body in the presence of silicone devices. Dr. Kayte formulated her new product, Silicone Implant Support, after suffering from chronic mystery illness, which greatly improved after breast implant removal in an effort to help others manage their own silicone concerns, and was designed to provide solutions to people who want to support overall health with implants. This is going to change so many lives, and I cannot wait to hear more. So let's welcome Dr. Kayte and, of course, Dr. Pompa. Welcome, both of you.
Hi, thank you, Ashley, so much. Hello, Dr.
Hey, Ashley, we'll have to put the link for the other show that we did where we told Kayte's story. And that's a great show on breast implant illness and this, how you ended up here. So you didn't end up here by chance. You didn't think, hey, I got a great idea. Let me develop a product around this concept. No, from pain to purpose, like my story. But I'm going to apologize at the very beginning because I call her Katie. I've known her that long.
No, it's okay. A lot of people do that are my close family friends, and it makes me feel very endeared. So I appreciate that.
I love Katie. I don't know why. So and then I'll throw a Dr. Katie in every once in a while just to be correct. But I love Katie and everything she's about. Matter of fact, when you launched this product, I flew all the way to Beverly Hills just to be there. Because, I felt like I was part of this project from the beginning.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, even from, just your whole story. I remember the first day we did lunch together and, we've been friends ever since. And a lot of our toxicities were the same, different source. You got a lot of heavy metals, multiple ways, but one of the ways was your breast implants. I always say that one of the big problems with breast implants is the big three that people don't realize: mold, hidden infections, and heavy metals. Believe it or not, they have all three. And I love saying this, and this is me, not you, but here we are. I don't know how many years out from when this really became in vogue, probably 20 some at this point. I don't know. But there's this onslaught now of people that are getting sick. And it takes probably that long in many people. So if you haven't watched the past episode, please do. And Ashley will put that link in. But many of you watching this may be in a place, for whatever reason, maybe can't get your explants removed. It could be physical health, it could be emotional, it could be financial, any of the above. Kayte really had a heart for this and started to develop a product to really support the body in that. Because obviously, when you realize certain symptoms are happening, it could be this. What can I take? Kayte, you got that question a lot.
Well, okay, I don't disagree with anything you said, but I want to clarify that, if you have symptoms and you have BII, like this product is not going to like heal you. That's not what it's for. The point is just an acknowledgement that if you have silicone devices in your body, whether they're breast implants, butt implants, chin implants, jaw, penile, pec, there's a lot of different types of silicone devices. All of them have a chemical profile. You mentioned heavy metals for sure, but I think even more, well, the heavy metal, who knows, like the true heavy metal content and how that evaporates in the form of gel bleed. But we know for sure that microsilicone and all of the chemicals it's bound to, when they're trying to leave your body, having heavy metals as an underlay for that's already kind of challenging detox, can allow like microsilicone to accumulate. And that's a huge problem too. Anyways, point being, you want these devices, or you have them, or you want to get them. There's an acknowledgement that there are health risks, and this product provides a way to support your body despite those things. Much like living in today's world, which we don't really have a choice, we have to support our bodies amidst the exposures, right?
That's right.
Tell you.
Yeah, exactly. And some people saying, hey, I wouldn't give these up, whatever happened, right? Okay, well, another argument for why you created the product. So there's a lot of emotional reasons, identity reasons, who knows. On this, we're not trying to convince people one way or the other, but the point is you recognize the need to support the body.
Absolutely.
Its detox pathways, the cellular support around it, and that's a lot of the
formation of collagen around the implant, which really helps to prevent. I mean, when you look at, we could talk about studies, but the body really wants to get in and start attacking the implant. It doesn't mean that they go autoimmune. The body just does that, a foreign body. Mm-hmm. So when you have a nice capsule around it that's very well formed, you're not going to see as much of this microsilicone getting out. You're not going to really see the toxins having as big of an effect on systemic health if they stay in that capsule. So some of the things that we could talk about, which relate to your favorite topic, mercury, and one of my favorite topics, which is collagen derangement by histamine caused by mercury. We could talk about how that affects someone's ability to make a nice, healthy scar tissue capsule around the implant before they get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in matter of fact, I want you to talk about the picture you have behind you there.
Can you read it?
Yeah, but I can see what's there. Yeah, I think that's a great example of what we're talking about. So go through that and reference that.
Okay, so, there's a lot of different ways people can get very sick from implants, but what I try to focus on in creating, and I'm hesitant to even say that this is preventative because we all know how difficult it is to talk freely with the regulatory bodies around supportive products. So it's not to say that this is preventative, but it's more to say that there are several main processes that I really wanted to support for anyone with silicone. And I used my understanding of how silicone can affect the body in a negative way to decide which categories to focus on. So the three categories I'm focusing on are immune support, but this isn't like, oh, you're getting a cold and we want to give you vitamin C. This is thinking more about the immune system with relationship to autoimmunity and how we know through research how to support that process by modulating the immune system. So we're not creating a high immune system, or, we're trying to balance it. So a big part of the formula is supporting the T regulatory cell process, which has a big determining factor in whether or not you agree that a tissue is foreign. So when we're looking at how the immune system pulls off pieces of your own tissue and presents them as foreign, and then the immune system agrees and then makes antibodies against that tissue, and then you have an autoimmune disease. So we know kind of we know sort of like what nutrients tend to be missing in people who do that.
Right.
And you know, for sure, like there's a genetic component usually when people turn on those processes, but I think it's genetic plus nutrient deficiencies plus trigger. So, and that's kind of I don't want to say like, that's my medical observation on what I see in autoimmunity. So, you know, it's not a big deal. I just gave them some of the nutrients that support T regulatory process, that help recycle glutathione, things like that.
Yeah, but I would argue it is a big deal though, because, you know, again, if you have silicone, you know, devices, then I wouldn't want to run that risk. I would want to support that. So
For sure. So anytime you put a foreign object in your body, if you have this propensity to turn on an autoimmune process, that can happen. That's why when people get organ transplants, they do immunosuppressive therapy, you know, so that they don't attack that organ. So it's not really any different with a silicone device. And, you know, autoimmunity was something I think we talked about quite a bit in our episode in 2019, which, by the way, like I was still so sick when we shot that. And I'm sure I did a good job of pretending like I wasn't, but I had not even at that time gone through chelation. I hadn't done I was just starting to work with cyto detox and
that was part of my process and that of helping you, you know, come out of that. But you know what, that show wasn't about that. That show was about your story and really, you know, understanding that, you know, you could have done all the perfect everything if you didn't get rid of the source in your case.
Totally. But the point was just that I think we talked about autoimmunity because that's a big thing that we have we know, and we've been knowing that since the 90s. With the original silicone. So, and it's interesting the way the studies were done, and there was an intentional exclusion of women with autoimmunity for those if we want to even call them studies, they were really preliminary. It was just like a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And they excluded people with autoimmunity or a history of autoimmunity from being part of the study. And when I say the study, I'm talking about the 2 studies done by the 2 major manufacturers that happened pre-2006 when there was motivation to put implants back on the market and they were seeking new approval. So, and that's like all we have. And it's great because the FDA just decided about a month ago that they're going to make those companies finish those studies. So they never finished them. And they were asked to finish them when the approval was given in 2006. They were asked to finish them and make them 10-year studies, but they never were finished. And then no one really followed up on that until now. So it's exciting.
In a recent talk that I did on upstream causative, you know, factors to illness, unexplainable illness, I cited a study that talks about the connection to autoimmune. And then I cited the study that most plastic surgeons see because it's the one they put in the journals.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to your plastic surgeon, they talk about the safety and that there's no connection to autoimmune. And so I like to show the study, here's what they see. But the fact is that if you look at who's on that study, then you realize they all have a connection, unfortunately, you know, to the breast implant world. So it really takes that study out, right? So,
and I mean, like I've heard what the opponents say, like, oh, well, autoimmunity has all these lifestyle factors, and when you get breast implants, you start behaving differently. And so if you get an autoimmune disease, it's probably because of your behavior changes, which is ridiculous, but
not according to that study. Well, let's look at the collagen support.
Okay, so moving on.
Moving on, MMP9, collagen support, the second row behind you there.
Okay, so this part of the formula is where my patent is primarily, and it's written in a way where, like, you know, it could be developed as a drug. Like, I'm not against that. I think if pharma is motivated to continue making implants, and if everyone still wants them, which my research shows they do, and, you know, we could fight it or we could embrace it and meet people where they are and provide them solutions and let them make their own decisions about their bodies. I'm okay with that.
No, I'm okay with that too. It's called freedom, by the way.
Absolutely.
You know, we live in a free country. If you want to smoke, right? It's like,
we're still going to be here to support you if your lungs have problems, for sure, right? So you know, if the way this patent is written, like there's potential, there's a lot of really cool new peptides that support MMP9 really well that are just in early research. And there's ways that we could totally have drug interventions that would really help make a great adjunct as a beautiful capsule of scar tissue around the implant. Of course, like I don't have $9 million to develop a drug. I'm not prepared to do that level of fundraising, but it would be really cool if anyone wanted to, I would support them, right? So thinking about that, and then thinking about how from a holistic standpoint, you can support MMP9. It's just not the way people typically think about collagen.
First of all, back up though. What is
I'm gonna explain
MMP9?
it.
People understand collagen.
Yeah, I'm gonna explain it. I'm just trying to figure out how to like where to start, because like, you know, when you think about these pathways, where do I start? The chicken or the egg? I had an Ehlers-Danlos patient come to me for breast implant illness counseling, and she said something and it was like a light bulb went off. She said, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so I don't scar, so I have no capsule. And when she said that, it was like, I felt like I just got smacked in the face, you know, like, how did I not see this, right? How did I not realize this? Because I've been struggling, and not just me, all of us, we've all been struggling with hypermobility and some degree of like, you know, mast cell syndrome, which is a big part of hypermobility, for a while, and had yet to figure out, oh, well, of course, I'm hypermobile. Well, not really anymore, because I've worked on it. I was hypermobile because I was hypersecreting histamine all the time. And histamine in the skin matrix and in other places breaks down type 4 collagen. So it's of course it does, right? Like, why don't we think about that? We think about supporting collagen by taking collagen, and like we think about hair, skin, and nails formulas, and that's all not getting at the root cause of why some people might be breaking down collagen, why some people are aging quicker than others, why people have skin laxity faster than they should for their age, which was all stuff I said from day one. I said, I feel like I'm aging. People, but it's just they didn't get it. Like if you look at photos of me from 2016 and now, like I looked eight years younger than I looked like 6 years ago. It doesn't make any sense, right? My skin was breaking down because I had chronic circulating toxins like mercury, like microsilicone, and our bodies love to work on this priming system. So we see it in every part of the body. We see it with insulin, we see it with the brain, with dopamine, with gambling, with addiction, whatever. Okay, so your body just gets lazy, and it's just I know I'm preaching to the choir. This is just my perspective on it. I know you know this, but point being, we have this priming thing that happens with histamine from the mast cells. So once you get some toxins circulating over time, they're just ready to drop histamine anytime they want. And MMP9 is the pathway that modulates that process. And there's ways that you can support it, and you can intensify the integrity of the mast cell and reduce the priming, reduce the histamine secretion, dampen the histamine that gets secreted, you know, and then
and ultimately it's protecting the collagen. It's protecting, you know, everything that basically is, you know, being sped up, if you will, that pathway because of the toxic component to the silicone device.
Well, and not just the toxic component to the silicone, but potentially the toxins in the person before they get the implants.
Absolutely, which is the bucket's full already.
Well, that's the reason why they don't make a good capsule around the implant. And that's what happened to me. That's why my capsule tissue is paper thin. And I've seen this in a lot of people. And that's why the Ehlers-Danlos patient did not have scarring, didn't make capsule around her implant. People with hypermobility. So, okay, I hope I explained it correctly or clearly, like the way you can jump
Well,
in.
I think that people,
Okay.
women like with at least a breast implant would understand that, but I think some people may not, you know, meaning that when you put the implant in, this capsule should form. And in some people it doesn't, or it's very paper thin.
Well, before we even get to that, did I explain clearly how chronic histamine causes hypermobility?
I think so. I think so, because I say I think so because I'm answering for them, but you know, meaning that yes, I think that absolutely it creates that pathway to basically upregulate MMP9, the whole process, and
yeah. So you're getting like increased histamine in the cellular matrix, and then there's this crosstalk. It's very interesting. There's this crosstalk with IGF-1. And it's also why KVP, like which you and I have talked about, works so well, which is really it's a little piece off of alpha MSH, which is what's coming into the cellular matrix to increase melanin. But it's like when people get a little tan and they get a little tighter, that's caused by KVP actually dampening, I'm simplifying this, but it's related to the way KVP affects collagen in the matrix, the same way MSH, alpha MSH affects melanin in the matrix, which can make you tan if you go in the sun. So it's so phenomenally interesting, and new for us. Like we don't totally know everything about it, but yeah. So like if you're kind of hypermobile, and this is where it starts to layer in an interesting way. You're kind of hypermobile because you're chronically secreting histamine, and you have like a dysregulated crosstalk, and that's why mast cell syndrome happens. And that's why mast cell syndrome is part of the trifecta in EDS, with POTS and EDS and mast cells. So like,
No, could someone else, obviously, other things can drive histamines and mast cell activation, from leaky gut to food issues. Then would that make you more predisposed to this because of the silicone?
So we're talking about like a bunch of different types of patients that come at this from different angles and places, and a lot of times end up with the same result. My point in pointing out the triad is just that there's this research triad that exists in people with genetic hypermobility. Okay, so we just talked about how you can become hypermobile from toxins, right? Chronic. There's another way that you can become hypermobile, which is just you have this genetic disease called Ehlers-Danlos. And so when you have that genetic disease, it's the best way to talk about it because it's what's most studied. It's so these people that have this stretch laxity, the mast cells are laying right under the skin, same in the gut and in the stomach. And then you stretch the skin, and that gets the priming. Okay, so you can get the priming of the mast cells from chronic circulating toxins, or the priming of the mast cells from chronic stretching from EDS, and then you can get chronic stretching from the toxins from the histamine breaking down collagen, which then makes you like a hypermobile. Then you get priming like from another mechanism. And even more than that, you mentioned the gut and toxins. Yes, all of that moves into in chronic illness. And then you have further breakdown of collagen from your own fibroblasts in the way they interact with pathogens. It literally triggers collagenase. So that's like another layer to how infections can exacerbate the aging.
And here's the person watching this going, okay, wait, my skin feels looser. My joints are a little bit hypermobile. Okay, I don't have breast implants, but I'm taking this product because I want to support that pathway.
Yeah, I've said that because a lot of people came to the event and they're like, we don't have implants. And it's like, honestly, it's a really good anti-aging formula. It might make your skin look tighter. I'm not saying that's a claim, but
Well, look, the claim is it supports the pathway that can drive. If you look at yourself, you can be your own judge and say, well, yeah, my joints are a little bit hypermobile, and my skin is definitely, hypermobile, if you will, in this direction. But okay, there's one more pathway behind you, so let's go through that one. That's the formula. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So of course, I wanted to support some of like the big things, like we see, like these people that are missing methyl donors that don't really convert B12 and B9 very well. That's not a revolutionary concept, but yet we do see it in a lot of BII people that they are deficient in methyl donors, and methyl donors, like I don't have to tell you, are like super important for any detox process. So we're definitely not pushing detox with this formula. There's nothing in it that's going to make you detox, but we are going to support the pathways. We want to we're doing everything we can to support exposure to chemicals, and a big part of that. There is one little, of course, we're going to talk about calcium D-glucarate, which is very interesting because in conjunction with vitamin A, which comes in from the first sleeve, because vitamin A is a big immune modulator, we have vitamin A and then calcium D-glucarate from the detox support, which in studies prevents breast cancer. Okay, I'm not saying that this product does that, but those two things in conjunction have been studied in how their role in breast cancer, because calcium D-glucarate helps you detox those exogenous estrogens or bad estrogens. So whether it's chemical estrogens or just like bad estrogens that your body makes, when you do conjugation and you do all those things that we support, and then you wrap them up nicely to excrete them to leave through the GI. And then there's these beta glucuronidase in the gut, which is like a dysbiotic presence, like if you have a lot, but it's common. And what they do is they unwrap those bad estrogens and they put them back into circulation. So obviously we don't want that. Calcium D-glucarate helps to like really decrease that process. So.
One of the things I have to say is, you know, obviously you were sending me some of the ingredients that you were using, and you chose really ingredients that are so much easier for body to utilize. I mean, they don't have to be converted. I like to call them more active ingredients, if you will, which by the way, sick people, we always like to use active ingredients because they typically do better with the more active formulas or the ingredients. Also, you use active doses. So a lot of products out there, they save money by using smaller doses just because people just see things on the label and they want that. But the fact is you use active doses too. So when you built the product out, you didn't spare expense with the types of ingredients that you use, and you use them in the right doses, both of which increase the availability of the product, the effectiveness of the product, and the price of the product, because you didn't spare any expense. So, but I say bravo. You don't want to create I always say a Chevy, but there's nice Chevys out there. I don't want to. You wanted to create a Ferrari, if you will. So you did. You did.
Yeah, it's immaculate. It's it's tested by the same lab that I think tests some of your products, which are immaculate. I mean, we're looking at heavy metals, we're looking at microbial content, we're at everything, and the facility is certified ISO, GMP. There's some other.
Yeah, so maybe that's another reason why I love the formula. You tested at the lab that tests all the products that we use. Well, look, what's the, we didn't even say this yet. Can you believe it? Okay, so I will provide a link below. Click on the link. You can get the product. Can you show the product? What is the name? There it is.
Okay, so this is Dr. Kayte's Silicone Support formula, and it's backwards. Sorry, it's in a glass bottle. I want to just say, if you have any viewers, that I'd love for people to buy it, like absolutely. But if they are watching this and they have financial need, or they're scared to spend money on something that they don't know about, I have created about 300 extra bottles that are they're in the eco pure plastic, so they won't get a glass bottle with the box and stuff, but they will get this. But in exchange, if they would just make me a video explaining why they want it, because my goal at this stage is to just, we're still doing fundraising, so I'd like to convey that this is a product people want. So I'm doing that as a gift, so they can just email me. But also if they want to buy it too, they can. So
now you want them to email you. So you want me to give
Well, they can email the company and.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Email the company.
Line over here.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. So we can give that email out. So we'll put the company email out along with the link, and you can get the product. And if you want to do a video, you can get the product in the plastic bottle, obviously at a discount.
While supplies last.
Well, exactly. I heard that. I did hear that. So, we do appreciate that for sure. So that's awesome. Well, look, I have to say this, it would be, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you just to tell a piece of your story. I didn't want to do it in the beginning because that was the show we did, right? And I didn't want to make this show about that, but yet I kind of want you to just briefly retell it.
I mean, and also to tell you everything that happened from 2000, well, but from 2019 to now, because I did so many incredible healing modalities that were game changers. And each one I was like, oh, this is it, this is the thing. And then it was like, I find something else. And there isn't one thing, but I learned so much through that process. And I feel like I'm finally like at a place where I can function almost normal. You say that and then you have a day where you're like, still happens to you. But it was challenging to really convey to people how bad it really was. So it's like,
I know that feeling.
Yeah, it's like I have to be like, no. Like I spent years thinking about suicide every day. It's so hard to say. It's true. Like it was so bad. It was so hard. But I got really sick. I'll do a 2-second or 30-second. Okay. I got really sick in 2012 and no one knew why. And I think I was 28 at the time, 28 years old. And I had a lot of muscle pain. I had a lot of post-workout recovery fatigue. I had alcohol intolerance. I had neurological symptoms, but nothing compared to the neurological symptoms, which manifested later. But this was the beginning, right? It was about 9 months after I got breast implants. I had no idea that my broken amalgams from the year before and 3 years before, and then those amalgams that had been in my life my whole life, and all the mercury I inherited from my biological mother, who still has a mouthful of amalgams. I had no idea those were playing a role. I had some symptoms throughout my life. Now that I've studied mercury at length and I know what the symptoms are, like there were things that it's so interesting. Like we talk about the skin and like the histamine pathways and reddening, and like I'm still red. You see, I just get red when we do, but that had been happening my whole life. I had really intense histamine reactions, and yeah, like pale. I don't know, there weren't, it was subtle. It was subtle. I had a lot of mercury, and I guess it's a testament to how strong I was.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be, right? I mean, I've heard of people crashing immediately after removing them. Like you crashed immediately after removing amalgams, and I didn't. I was okay until I got breast implants, and then
That's called the perfect storm. Three stressors, boom.
Yeah, and fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't get sick in a really obvious way. I didn't have an autoimmune disease, so I just had like basically poisoning that is so hard to find. No one really. I mean, we're still struggling so much to understand mercury as a collective, right? So no one asked me, oh, well, do you have mercury exposures? Because actually my symptoms, even when I almost got diagnosed with MS, if you paralleled those symptoms I was exhibiting with the mercury symptoms, they were all they were textbook mercury symptoms. I was shaking, I was super hyper reflexive, but you know, MS is just more on people's radar, I guess. I don't know. So it wasn't MS, but where was I? Okay, so I got really sick. No one knew what was wrong. People had incorrect guesses. I did treatment for a lot of things that didn't help me, that made me worse, like Lyme disease. I did 6 months of doxycycline, which was great for my gut, I'm sure, right? I had primarily musculoskeletal problems, so I started researching health programs. I just decided I was going to have to go back to school to figure out what was wrong with me, and I chose chiropractic school because I thought I had a musculoskeletal problem. And when I got to chiropractic school and started getting adjusted, it had absolutely no effect on my symptoms whatsoever. In fact, maybe worse sometimes. Who knows, right? Who knows? Yeah. Acupuncture helped, but only temporarily. So like I started learning, I had this radical fast learning curve in natural medicine and healing and everything, and nothing helped me. It helped me get more into the nitty gritty. Like I found more dysfunction, like my thyroid was dysfunctioning. My blood sugar was dysfunctioning. Okay, why? You know, like no one knew. I mean, and like so many people, I saw so many doctors, I had so many teachers. Finally started studying functional medicine. So ironically, this gets a little crazy. So ironically, the people I was learning functional medicine from, who are brilliant immunologists, I'm not going to say their names, but people who are like foundational in developing functional immunology techniques for antibody testing for food sensitivities and things like that are like considered the fathers of these, had actually been big players in the silicone movement in the 90s and had written dozens of papers. And then something happened and they weren't allowed to talk about it ever again. And so I was going to all these functional medicine seminars, learning from these people who really were the ones that would have known. And it was never mentioned because of weird silencing that happened. Particular immunologist who authored those papers in the 90s. I finally had a conversation with him years later. I was trying really hard to get him to be part of our breast implant summit. And I was like, hey, like you had all this work in the 90s where you were making papers about silicone and how bad it was. And now I was like, why don't you come talk? And he said, I can't ever talk about it. So isn't that so funny, like the journey? So I was going to all these functional medicine seminars, still never had any idea silicone could be an issue. Had looked for everything, couldn't find anything, knew about silicone and autoimmunity, had looked for autoimmunity, couldn't find autoimmunity. And then finally one day, like read a study at another functional medicine conference in a different, outside that network of seminar companies. It was a NutriWest. It was Dr. Brandon Lindell speaking for NutriWest, who had founded the functional medicine program at my school. So I had a lot of respect for him already. I was using his manual to learn blood, diagnosis and laboratory analysis. So anyways, we're at his conference and he puts up a study and it said that silicone ruptures could cause like pain syndromes, like fibromyalgia. And so that was just the first time I ever saw it explained like outside of an autoimmune disease, which of course causes pain, but when you have RA or lupus, like you don't call that a pain syndrome, you call it RA or lupus. So if in the research they're talking about it as a pain syndrome or like fibromyalgia, it's not, that means they don't know what it is. It means it's something else. And that was like the first time I saw, oh, I could fit into this category. That's me. And so then I started researching breast implants again. And then I found this huge community of women who were already speaking out about, and then I learned about the history. When you read the natural history from the 70s till today, and you just, all you have to do is just read it. And you're just like, oh, why, how are these approved? Like, it's great. But in any event, they're approved. And hey, I have friends who
and then how long after that then did you end up getting them removed? And when you got them removed, that helped certain things, but not all.
See, I wasn't going to get all detailed, and now we're just doing it again.
I know.
No, but it's okay. Well, stop me if it's too long. But I got them removed right away. That was a whole process. There's a special.
What changed?
Honestly, like I got worse. I was sicker. There was a tremendous amount of stress around that time because of what had happened with my health right up to explant. I had an onset of some very extreme things. For example, so this will feed right into like your work, but I had a root canal that decided to abscess right in my third trimester of chiropractic school. At the third year, the third trimester, it was in between I took a section of part 2 national boards, then I took part 3 of national boards, and then I took part 4 of national boards, which is a 2-day test. If anyone has been to chiropractic school, you know, it was insane. Yeah. And then it just started swelling, and they missed it. I went to my dentist. I went to the ER.
Always, yeah.
No one could even see the infection, and it turned into. I got diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia, and then I got diagnosed with MS before we figured out it was an infection. So that was insane.
Basically, what you're describing is the perfect storm, right? It's like, you know, you had the influence of the breast implants. You know, obviously you had hidden infection long before even that. It was there. You know, it's always there, and people just don't know it, right? It's like, you know, probably from a tooth that was removed years and years ago.
It was from a mercury filling that broke and crumbled too. Yeah. And then the mercury filling turned in. I know, this is so funny, right? And then 2 years later, when I met you, I didn't even know, and I had a cavitation. And then after, I'm jumping way ahead in time, but they pulled that tooth when we figured it out that it was an infection, and I got better, obviously, but then we didn't clean it. I didn't do it the correct way. So there was still bacteria and pathogen in the bone. And then that got healed over, and then it was starting to eat away, which is a cavitation. So a lot of people have that with wisdom teeth. I never removed my wisdom teeth, so I never had that, but I did have it with this particular tooth 30. So tooth 30 is also on the meridian for leg pain, which was a big thing I had. So a lot of this stuff was a layering, obviously. So that time in my life, and then I removed my implants, and I had that little sweetheart window. You talk about with amalgams, I felt better for a little bit. And then I had to finish my program, which was really complicated. I had to do all these clinic hours. It was so much. And then I finished, and then it was just like, it just ended, and I graduated, and I went in like a tunnel, like a dark tunnel. Like I withdrew for like 3-4 months from everyone. I had, luckily, fortunately, like I had available credit on my credit cards, because in school they give you all this loan money. So I survived on my credit cards. I did nothing. I couldn't function. I couldn't get out of bed. I lost weight. I was shaking every day. And it was just like, it was dark. I was like meditating a lot. I was doing breath work. It was the only thing I was able to do was breath work, meditation, and Kundalini.
When I met you, I mean, you had some things, you were on the backside of that, for sure.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that's what you thought. That's not true. And I think I might have thought.
Yeah, I did think that. I mean, I knew you had a lot going on. That's why we had the conversation.
I think I was lying to
you. But you definitely spoke like I was worse than even I am now, but here's what I have going on. And that's how we got into the whole doing heavy metals properly. And
so what happened was, during that summer of 2018, I was in this tunnel, and I was praying every day. That's like all I was doing. And part of that prayer process, like I don't know. I got this woman, Jessie Golden, who's this amazing like model and CEO and host. She had me on her show because Dr. Mark, who I had started kind of like trying to work in his office, I was doing a little bit like it was hard to function. But I was doing what I could. I was trying to get out of the hole. But I was still looking for answers. I knew there was more answers out there. And so when I started hosting my television show, it was really truly like in an attempt, whether I knew it or not, on an unconscious level, it was putting out a radar like to everyone in my field and other fields to come in and like continue to give the information, because there was a huge piece missing, which was the mercury piece, and I had no idea. And
that's why I was there that day.
And that's the team. And like, it was literally like, it was a life-changing moment. And then someone else came in a roundabout way. This woman, Cynthia Thurlow, who you probably know, she came and she said, I have a colleague who I did my nutritionist class with, who's a mercury expert. She lives in Italy. Her name's Sarah Russell, and Andy Cutler calls her the high priestess of mercury. She said, maybe you should talk to her. I said, okay. So by the way, Cynthia Thurlow, healthy woman, healthy with implants, perfectly healthy with implants. Okay. So, which she said, so I can say it. I think, God, I hope she said it, but yes. Sarah Russell was the one who kind of brought like plant lithium into my life, as I like told her I was struggling with these thoughts. And she said, well, you probably have lithium derangement, which is a mineral, right? I started taking plant lithium and like immediately like that all went away. Thank God.
Yeah. So many people with heavy metals, especially mercury, end up with lithium, just depletion and just imbalance.
Among other things, right? Like all mineral derangement in general is huge, right? So where were we? Yeah. So I guess like when I was doing the television show in the early days, which was fall of 18 and 19, you came in the beginning of 2019. I was putting on a really good face and I was trying really hard, but I would shoot like 3 guests in one day. And then I would have to go home and be in bed for 2 days. Like it was really hard like that, because the whole process, from media, like, it's a lot, it's stressful to be on camera and like you're on. So things were not really that great back then, but I was trying really hard to be positive, and it was better than it had been. So yeah,
I mean, look, what I want people to hear though is that, how did you get here now? You're clearly better. You removed causes, right? It was a perfect storm, right? You did it correctly, right? Yes, heavy metals were a huge part of that. Taught you how to do that correctly, because most of the world doesn't. Right? You got rid of the implants. You've done, you strengthened your pathways. You fixed your cells. I mean, you got to the cause, and that's what people need to hear.
So it's interesting though, but this is something you taught me. So everything I'm going to say, I learned from you. Okay. So we have different molecular weight amongst heavy metals. We have mercury and lead, which are very heavy, right? They're embedded deeper in tissue. They also have this like more global effect on all the detox pathways in general. So it's very interesting. I had removed my implants, but I still had a ton of microsilicone all throughout my body doing whatever that does, right? And I had all this mercury that was like a big semi truck blocking the freeway, so nothing else could leave. So I couldn't. So we talk in the implant illness communities about patience and give it time, and it can take 2 years after explant to really feel better. Well, like that's true, but I think if you have mercury toxicity, you're never going to feel better.
I agree 100%.
So then that silicone stays in there. So I started detoxing metals first. That was a whole process. Then I started detoxing parasites, whole process. Then I had to do metals, parasites back and forth because they redistribute each other. Okay. So you start killing parasites. They are like, especially if they're biophilic, they're full of metals in their biofilms and inside of them, especially if they're the type of parasites that feed on bile, right? I don't know if I had those. I'm not sure, but I've seen this in other people and I've read about it in the research, right? You have certain flukes, they're in the gallbladder, and you're secreting bile and you're trying to get rid of toxins, and then those parasites ingest them, and then the biofilms, and I mean ingest is like not really the right word, but you're following, and then you kill the parasite, and then you get this redistribution symptoms because now you have mercury or silicone in your blood, so you feel horrible again. It can be very hard so we don't start with gut cleansing with toxic people. I don't, right? I think you start with pathways, and then you go to then chelating, and then when they can handle it, you do some GI cleansing. And then I did fecal matter transplant because my body was completely messed up. Then I started secreting silicone. Then I was actually detoxing silicone. I wasn't really detoxing any of it up until that. And that was years. Okay. So wow, right? What a process. And then now that I've been able to get more of the silicone out, I've done several stem cell infusions. There's a lot of regeneration that still needs to happen. It's still happening. I started stabilizing those hypermobile pathways, stabilizing the histamine. So, you know, I'm probably forgetting. Oh, there's other things I've done.
No, but I agree with that, because a lot of people are saying, oh, just fix the gut first. It's like, come on. You and I both couldn't, we couldn't fix the gut despite what we did, despite anything that we tried, because we had all these things upstream that were really, the problem. And like you said, some people just kill your parasites. Well, you do that, and then you have other problems because of heavy metals and, other pathogens. And, there is an order there that you went through that, absolutely makes sense. And I agree with. So, well, your story is worth telling because, again, it brings you to here, right? You would not know, just like me, anything about these pathways. You couldn't have created a product that helps support people through this if you didn't go through what you went through. And I hope that gives people hope, because one of the things I always say is, our purpose typically is in our pain, but what I like most is God has a promise for all of us in it. And, stepping into that, I believe that's where you're at. Awesome. I think people need to get the product. It's a niche that no one really has addressed until now. You would not have addressed it if you didn't go through with that story that you just told. So it was meant to be. So that gives people hope too. So Dr. Kayte, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And to piggyback off what you said, never before now could we have ever made a product like this, because there was an acknowledgement that this issue is real. And thank God, through the advocacy, through the work of the nonprofits, through women who all they do is lobby for device safety, and they've enacted real change, and they have gotten the FDA to reopen, things. And now the FDA is asking the companies to finish their studies. They've issued new consent. So all of the plastic surgeons, because I had one of my lawyers said, well, if I was a lawyer for a plastic surgeon, I would never let them carry your product. I wouldn't want them alerting their patients that something that they're giving them could be bad. But now, fortunately, it doesn't matter, because now by law they have to. So
it's great.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen is, I'll tell you, everyone's still going to get them, but at least now they have some idea. And of course, people who are in the dark, who are really suffering and sick, they might find out about the product, and it might have never occurred to them that implants could be the cause of their illness. So that's important to me. If this is a Trojan horse for some people who really need to explant, then they should. But there's a lot of people, and Jessie Golden, who was the one who brought me on her show, I found when her and I started talking, and she had RA before she got implants. And her whole story was about figuring out how to heal her RA. And that's what, her whole, she walks the talk of everything she, has done. She's totally integrated into her body. She's healed her body through all different ways. And a lot of it self-love, but not, she has steps for what that means. But she had RA before she got implants, and she doesn't have saline implants. She has a newer line, very toxic type of silicone, and she's not sick. It did not re-trigger her RA, which had already manifested before. So it's so interesting. When she told me that, I was like, whoa, that's great news, right? Because it means if you're very healthy and all of these pathways are working well, and you make a good collagen, you don't have to mobilize anything bad, and maybe you're okay for as long as your body stays healthy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, it's no different. It's no different than the person with 8 amalgams in their mouth. I'm healthy for now. Or the person in the moldy home, 1 sick, 3 aren't for now, right? I mean, it's until you hit your perfect storm, right? And, but the body's dealing with it. A healthy body will deal with it, just like the amalgam in the mouth. Right? I did until I got sick. If you'd asked me a week before that, I ended up my bucket overflowing, I got an amalgam out, and then sickness happened after that, I'd have told you I was the healthiest guy walking. So
you were running a high volume chiropractic office and adjusting
absolutely. Ate healthy, exercise, racing at the top level. That's the complicated part. But the fact is look, it's years of these stressors, and it's the perfect storm of stressors, and you're setting yourself up. Look, you had some, I don't know, I don't want to call it guilt. I don't want to speak for you, but I remember the conversation of you saying, look, I don't want to be telling people to keep their implants and develop a product for them to be safer with their implants. Am I doing the right thing here? And I said to you, you are, because people are going to continue to get them.
Yeah, they
And
want
it's like,
that.
and it's like, if you can support these pathways that need support and stress, you're going to save lives. You're going to save lives.
Plus, like, and what you just said, so I don't know if it matters. Let me tell you why, and you tell me what you think, because this is all hypothetical. If you're super healthy and you make this excellent scar tissue capsule around your breast implant, okay, and then down the road you get less healthy, I don't know that your collagen is going to change that you made. I don't think that capsule, we have research showing the capsule never reabsorbs. I could think of problems that could happen, like if you switch your set and they do it without on block and they open that capsule in the pocket and pull the implant out, that it's Pandora's box, then everything could be released in the pocket, which is why we advocate for on block capsulectomy so that the capsule never gets open. But just like, and I've seen people that are really healthy and then they get sick when they switch their set, right? So they've opened it up. But like, what do you think? I mean, if you make a nice capsule that's really impenetrable and then you down the line gets less healthy.
Yeah, but I think there's arguments that people make that no capsule's impenetrable. It starts to accumulate in the capsule. It's a tissue, right? It's like, so, and then the body starts looking at that capsule as a problem. It starts attacking your capsule. And then the capsules start leaking. And then,
especially if it's like permeating mild.
But see, that takes 30 years. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, that takes 30 years. There's a difference of, people get sick within a year, and I've heard the stories. And some people it'll take 30 years because I think the capsule's the difference.
Capsule, it's 100% the capsule, unless it's autoimmune, and that's a different story.
Yeah, a totally different story.
It's a trigger, or it could be both. But yeah, that's interesting, huh? Yeah, you're totally right. You're totally right. No capsule is impenetrable.
Yeah, no, exactly. So yeah, look, I mean, the bottom line is it's still, your product is a very relevant product because people are going to do it. There's identity things here. There's all kinds of things here. So the fact that you're supporting the pathways that we know are going to be stressed. I mean, come on, how do you not develop a pathway like that? How do you not take a product? I mean, if I had I don't, but if I did, I'd be taking the product.
I think you already take everything in this product because it's tailored for someone who had pre-existing toxicity.
Yeah, no, exactly. I was telling people at your party, I'm like, I would take this product because a lot of the stuff that's in it is in my cellular products, right? Because you have to support the cell in this pathway. So, well, Kayte, we're over time, but thank you for being here. What a great product. Thank you for a great show. Thank you for your pain to purpose story. That's why you're here.
Thank you for sharing, and I appreciate you so much. And I love you so much.
Awesome. Love you too. Hey, I want to tell you about one of our sponsors, Cyto Detox. Look, podcasts cost money. There's a lot of production going around this, but we are grateful to have Cyto Detox as one of the sponsors. It's so easy for me to talk about the product because myself and my family use it constantly as we practice what I preach. For over 15 years, I've talked about and taught doctors and the public about cellular detox. And I'll tell you, Cyto was a breakthrough. Cyto was a breakthrough for us. And it's changed so many lives. So we're grateful that they sponsor Cellular Healing TV. It makes sense, doesn't it? They should.
If you're listening to this podcast and want to access the amazing Cyto Detox product Dr. Pompa just mentioned, please visit detoxoffer.com. Again, that's detoxoffer.com. Well, that's it for this week. The materials and content within this podcast are intended as general information only and are not to be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you would like to purchase some of the supplements mentioned on this show, please visit the site as seen on CHTV.com and use the code CHTV15 for 15% off. Again, that's as seen on CHTV.com. Use the code CHTV15 for 15% off. And as always, thanks for listening.